Welcome to the Welkin Suite Release Highlights webinar. In our ever-present push to help developers do their job faster, simpler, remove as many development nuisances as possible, we have added even more functionality in two main blocks of the Welkin Suite concerning the debug logs and our retrospective debugger. And of course, we had to do a little bit of housekeeping too. So to get started here, let me introduce our team. I'm Daniel. I do communications and PR for the Welkin Suite. As normal, sitting with me is Vladimir. He's our project manager. And also now with us, we have Alina, who is our manager of communications. So continuing on now, let's go ahead and give you a little bit of a roadmap of what we're going to go over during this session. So basically, we're going to give you a high-level overview of what the release, what we released this time. Also, we're going to give a nice demonstration of it, and we're going to clue you in for our plans going into the next release. After that, we'll follow up with, of course, some questions and answers from our people that are listening to the webinar. So, Alina, well, why don't you say let's get started and go ahead and start giving people kind of a high-level overview of what we've done in this current release.
Sure. First off, hi all of you. Let's begin with the fundamental part concerning the view in the debug logs mode. As in the previous versions, you had the chronological line view, but as of the latest version, we've also added the tree view, which will be displayed in the same window. So this will save you the embarrassment of getting lost in your own code, and you'll always know where exactly you are and how you got there.
Okay, and then also when dealing with the logs, now the Welkin Suite keeps track of the last state of the show only user debug messages option. So now, from now on, you don't always need to be re-engaging this function, which just kind of removes one of those nuisances that you have to do.
Keeping up with that, we also added the new navigation option because, as we all know, in going through the debug logs, it's all about getting places faster. So you might have already tried out this step into, step out functions, but starting from this version, we also added the step back function, which will also allow you to move backwards.
Yeah, and from what I know, this is one
it's
of
my favorite.
Yeah, it's one of Vladimir loves this function. Okay.
I was dreaming about it for a while.
Okay. Well, then also continuing the theme here, we also now allow you the opportunity to use our retrospective debugger in anonymous Apex files. At least from our experience, if you want to test new functionality without having to send something to Salesforce, Anonymous Apex is really the best solution here. So now using Anonymous Apex, we by having the use of the debugger, it just gives you an extra tool to verify all the executions.
Another cool thing is that we added the exceptions because before you could only trace the execution flow when working with the debugger, but as of now you will be able to see all the exceptions and the errors in your code, and they will pop up, and you'll have all the information about the error type, and you'll get the error message. So this way you can solve your problems a lot faster.
Okay, and then continuing on, we've also did some more improvements to the retrospective debugger. For one thing, now you can open and close any panel you wish in concerning with the breakpoints, locals, panel, and call stack. And by the way, you also have access now you have access to the breakpoints panel outside of the debug mode, correct, Vladimir?
Yeah, then you're right, because you're setting them while you're editing files, so it's better for you to see the list of all all breakpoints once you're editing something.
Okay. Also, the local list now includes all the properties and the related data for the custom variables. In addition, we added some shortcuts for the debugging navigation buttons to the main menu. Vladimir is all about hotkeys and these shortcuts. He loves these type of things. And last but not least, all the open files in the editor are now locked. They're locked when you start using the debugging process. My guess is there were some accidental changes happening here, Vladimir.
Yeah, it's usual case when you're debugging something and then just trying to edit the code or doing something like pressing keys. So it's better to just lock the files when you're debugging.
Okay, so that's kind of the overall high level of what happened here. So I think probably the next best thing to do is now lead into our demonstration so we can actually show you this in real life.
Actually, there are a few fixes we also made, so they might be worth attention because, well, there's always room for making things a lot better. So hopefully you haven't experienced the problem with the breakpoints not stopping, but if you have, we've fixed that issue. So whenever you set a breakpoint and you use the step over or step out function, you'll actually stop there, so it'll work flawlessly. And another thing is also debugging related, and so if you're going through the nested method with the several code units started blocks, each of these blocks will be present in the call stack in the debug mode.
Right, and that pretty much kind of takes care of our house cleaning that I was talking about earlier. So now we'll move on to that all-important demo.
Thanks, Dan, because I was thinking that we were doing presentation of the PowerPoint instead of the Welkin suite. So, okay guys, let's start here, and as Dan said properly, we have two main blocks of improvements here. It's debug logs and retrospective debugger, and I'll start right from the debug logs. First of all, when you open the Welkin suite, when you open the logs panel, you can see the new button called configure debug log levels. And if you press it, we will retrieve information about your actual debug log levels in your org. You can easily set up them. For example, you don't care about anything, like I am right now, so everything is set to the error level. But I'd like to see maximum amount of information about Apex code or, for example, about database. So I'll set levels to finest. And I'm doing this just in 2 clicks instead of switching to Salesforce UI as you've done this previously. So this is one small but pretty nice step from our point of view, so you can just switch to the browser even less. And and I'll enable debug logs. So after that we will open any existing debug log file, and we can see that new viewer that Alina and Dan were talking about. So on the upper side you can see the tree view, on the lower side you can see a good old plain text view of the debug log file. And let's switch. You have also the splitter, so you can separate the place as you want. You can hide any of the parts as you want. So I'll leave it somehow this way. In the tree view, all the entries are grouped in the nested blocks. So for example, if you have one unit test method started, it's one execution block. Mm-hmm. Below it you can see all the entries to the different code units, to the methods. This is very helpful because in case if you have, huge loops, or if you have hundreds of method calls and you're not interested in them, but you know that there is something interesting around them, you can just easily skip hundreds or thousands of records, just collapsing or expanding something in the tree view. It's much easier for you to navigate through the debug logs because they have lots of useful information but without great structure. So we are trying to add some new structure to these logs. Another good thing here is once you found something interesting here, or once you select any entry in the tree view, the corresponding line in the text view is also highlighted, so you can see as I'm switching between different entries, my log view is also changed here. Another point here that Daniel have mentioned, so show only user debug messages. If I press this checkbox, you can see the tree view is also filtered. We only show that elements that contain debug logs, so that I've entered manually. It's also helpful, and the same for text view for sure.
Okay, I have a question. As far as I see in the line mode, the chronological view, there is color highlighting, and there seems to be none in the tree view. How so?
You're absolutely right. So right now at the moment, as you can see, we don't have any syntax highlighting in the tree view, but we will introduce it at some point later. We will also introduce nice filtering for the tree view, so you will be able to filter, for example, only method entries or, for example, only profiling information. So we'll add additional way for you to filter information and to get useful information that you need in the faster way. So it will be released in some next releases, I hope. But it was a good point.
Good.
So that's it. That's it about debug logs. We hope that you'll find it helpful, this preview, and we'll be happy to hear back your feedback about this.
Because I know when we were at Sebit and we were talking about this tree view, it turned on some light bulbs in some developer heads when we said that we're going to offer it.
Yeah, agree then.
Okay, another question then. Speaking from the non-developer perspective, in which cases would you benefit from the tree view, and in which cases would line view work better for you? Are there any differences practically from the viewpoint of practicality?
So in case if you're debugging small, anonymous Apex snippets or pretty small classes, it won't be very useful to have tree view because you'll have 100 lines or something like this. You'll be able to go through them in your eyes like in a plain text. You've already got used to this like with years of working with Salesforce. However, if you have thousands of lines in your debug logs, or if you'd like to enable finest levels, for example, it's absolutely horrible to read these tens of thousands of lines in the debug log files. In this case, you'll see only, some hundred of items in the tree view. It's much easier to navigate through them and understand exactly what are the scopes of each method. So you will see that in this method we have only 200 lines, and you won't be required to go through all these 200 lines to understand, oh yeah, finally here we are going out from this method. You will see this clearly in the tree view.
Oh good. That's a great thing actually.
Okay, so then let's move on and let's switch to the debugger improvements. I'll create some simple anonymous Apex file here to show you. So yeah, if you remember, like anonymous Apex files are treated in a bit another way in the Welkin suite. We handle them as separate files, so you can create lots of them. And so finally I have my anonymous Apex file. I have some strange code here, and I'd like to start debugging it. So I can do this by right-clicking in the editor and select debug anonymous Apex. Or I can do this from the main menu, select debug and start debugging from the anonymous Apex file. So starting from this point, we have not 2 ways to start debugging, but 3 ways. So you can do this using unit tests. We can do this directly from the log files, and the new way to do this from the anonymous Apex files. So then let's debug from anonymous Apex. The same way here we are setting proper debug log levels, we are executing your anonymous Apex, downloading log file, and resetting back your debug log levels. Here we are, so we can navigate in the anonymous Apex file the same way as anywhere else. We can go step in, step out, so I'll just step in some code. We can see here some some strange code, but it doesn't matter for us. I have a breakpoint. I'll continue to it. And here I'll explain why I'm so excited about the go back button.
The step back button.
Yeah, because like in most systems, most development platforms, debugging is a real-time process, and you're not able to just rewind or like delete something. It's already happened, and you can go back. Here we have retrospective debuggers, so we have all the freedom to go back. And I was missing this feature for a while when I was working with Microsoft.NET or when I'm working right now with Salesforce. I'm missing this feature because why? The main thing here is that usually I know that there is an exception somewhere. Or for example, I know that there is some error that is in, for example, in my case, in this process input method. I know that this exception or error is there. And I know also that the main reason of that error is somewhere before that method. In ideal cases, I can find the place where we call that method, I can set breakpoints there and start working without complaining about my hard life. However, in reality, if this method is something from common library or some utils that is used across the project for 1000 lines, 1000 times, it will be a bit painful for me to find out where to set breakpoint. And this will just waste at least 30 minutes of my time. In this case, I was dreaming about setting breakpoint and then just go back to the previous step where something have happened wrong. So in this case here, I'm just moved to the breakpoint, and now I can press step back button to understand where we came from, what were the variables, what were the issues, so I can clearly understand what happens.
Yeah, such a simple thing, but such a time-saving option.
Yeah, it's very simple, just like step back, step next, but it really helps me in my life already. So I'm really excited about this very small button. Okay, and another thing here, it's exceptions. We have a good question using Anonymous Apex. How would you debug a trigger? It's really like the same as you using the unit test. You just insert or update or delete some record from the Anonymous Apex, and you start debugging trigger as well.
Okay.
So it's the main thing here is that the trigger is being executed in the same execution context. So whatever happens after your initial demo operation, it will be debugged here. Okay, so let's get back to our exceptions. Hope you won't experience any more crashes. So I'm here and I will show you some more logic. So here we are, we see the great code with trying to divide by 0, and once I step over it, we can see such not very beautiful but very handy and helpful window showing us that there is an exception where it is, and we have an option here to break. For example, if I break an execution, I will leave at the same line where this exception was thrown. I can examine local variables, I can step back to understand what led to this exception, and in case if I am pretty happy with this, I can just continue working, and I will receive another exception warning showing me that we have another exception here. Also I can, second button here is continue, so in case if I know it was better to show it in the reverse order, to be honest.
Yeah, but
so
we're okay.
In case if I know that this exception is absolutely expected by me, like in previous case, because I was throwing an exception in try block, I was expecting for it, I had some catch block here. So if I know that this will be handled somewhere else, I can just continue. But I will again press break. So when I press break, and here we can see that exception is shown in locus variables, we can see that divide by 0, and I can again go back. Why showing exceptions is so important from our point of view? I'll just show it again from lots of breakpoints. Yeah, so why it's so important? It's so important because in case it's good if you know where you experience an exception. It's good if you have some breakpoints set in your code and you already know what you're going to debug. However, if you are experiencing an issue, you've just downloaded log files and you don't want to go step by step through the code, you can just press continue button and you'll get navigated automatically to the point where you have an exception and where you should pay your attention. So this was this pretty small improvement, but it really helps debug issues and understand what are the problems in the code.
Okay.
So this was pretty it in terms of demonstrating the new features.
Okay.
I'll get back to demonstrating PowerPoint.
Back to demonstrating PowerPoint. Okay, so from here, I think it's important to move on to our future plans. And the best person to explain our future plans is the person that has the
person who generates
the
these
person
plans,
who generates the
technically.
plan. Yeah, exactly. So Vladimir, what's happening in the future?
You're not right, then. In this case, we need to get all our guys to all our customers to talk about what are the next plans. However, like we've analyzed some feedbacks and our plans for the next release are pretty, big. We are excited about the next release. It will be one of the biggest ones for a while. And so first of all, the same thing that we've promised last time with the last webinar, it's Salesforce migration tool integration. We have started working on it like a month ago and we are still working on it. So in the next release, we will provide you great integration with Ant or Salesforce migration tool. We'll provide you some useful scripts from us and it will be a pretty nice experience. Also, as we are working on the Salesforce migration tool, we will for sure improve our deployment process because we are not very happy with it right now. And we will make these things much easier in the future. Also, we are already working, I guess, for 2 or 3 months on Apex code completion. and code assistance functionality. So we are working very hard, and I'm sure that in the next release we will provide you our third version of code completion, and it will be a much better experience. I think that it will be the best you see for Salesforce. As a small improvement, but also pretty handy as we think, it allows authentication in case if you don't trust us, but you better trust us. So in case if you don't trust us, you can just not specify your credentials and allow access for the Welkin suite with allows. So it will be pretty transparent, and you will be able to revoke access in any moment just from the Salesforce UI. So you'll never know your credentials. It's good things from our point of view. And the biggest thing in the next release is a secret.
It's a secret. Okay. Don't you love it when people say, hey, our future plans, it's a secret. So give us one hint, just one little hint.
We are going to extend our support for different Salesforce products, and we found one great product that we'd like to support as well. And I'm sure that we will share more ideas. We will have some webinars, we'll have some articles about this in the...
So stay tuned to our social media channels, read our blog. We're going to be sharing all of the ideas and all of the updates on the matter there right the moment we have them.
Very good. Okay, well, I see we have a couple of questions here to jump on. One question happened very early on. Is there any plan to support TFS for a source control solution?
Yeah, it's pretty common question here. It's so right now we support only Git, and we have in our plans to support SVN in pretty close future, and we have as well in our plans to support TFS, but maybe a bit later. I hope that we will complete support for TFS and SVN as well before the Dreamforce, but I'm not able to give you some more precise information about when it will be done. So it's anyways definitely in our plans, and we are going to do this.
Okay. And the other one we have is how to debug virtual force pages, especially the view state in the Welkin suite.
Great question. I think that debugging visual force pages is one of the hardest things here. So it's much easier when you're debugging some classes. It's a bit harder, but still easy to debug triggers, and it's painful to debug visual force pages. So right now, the only way that we can propose it to debug visual force pages is to enable debug logs for your user with proper debug levels. Just then go to the Salesforce, navigate through your visual force pages, do whatever you want, and then start debugging using from the debug log files. You won't see view state information, you won't see very user-friendly kind of experience optimized for visual force pages, but you'll still be able to somehow debug your controllers. However, we have some really great plans to improve debugging experience in terms of visual force. So we are thinking about some nice things where you'll be able to open the visual force page right in the Welkin suite. To click everything, you will see the corresponding logs which were created after each your action, and it will be easy to navigate to them. So it's really very nice and ambitious plans, and I hope that we will provide them pretty soon.
Okay, sounds good. That seems to be kind of the end of the questions right now. So I think what I want to do is just kind of wrap up here with...
Actually, no, before we finish our little session, lately on the social media, I've been getting a lot of questions about the anticipated Mac version because, well, there's this giant buzz going on. So, Vladimir, what are the approximate dates? When can we...
It's a bad question. So, but in general, yeah, our guys are working very hard on the Mac version, so they're almost sleeping in the office. We'd like to get some bets for them, I guess. Yeah, might know this. So they're working very hard. We are doing pretty good progress in terms of providing the Welkin suite experience to the Mac users as well as Linux users. So, but I'm not able yet to provide some good estimations. So we will for sure share more information in our social media. We will do some webinars. We'll share screenshots or all those things once we progress towards this goal. And that's maybe that I can say about the Mac version. So we are working very hard. It's our top priority, and we will get it soon.
Yeah. So.
And there are a few screenshots already on our Facebook page, on our LinkedIn, Google Plus. So for those of you who are interested, whenever we have something shaped up and pretty, we upload it the exact same moment for you to see that we're doing our absolute best.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we have one more question from Andrew. So will we publish a tentative roadmap? To be honest, we'd like to, but the strange thing here is that we are listening to all our users, that we are listening to the community. To be honest, we've got tired a bit about changing our roadmap, so it's roadmaps that we've had 2 weeks ago, it's absolutely different from the roadmaps that we have right now. It's absolutely flexible and it's changing almost every day. So we'd like to share with you our future plans, but I think that we
just don't want to, lead you to the wrong direction. So it's kind of a little bit easier for us to share them in a short-term perspective than in the long-term one.
At least we can try to get whatever we've promised to you in a shorter perspective.
Yeah, and that leads me back to my other comment here is we really are eager for your feedback, as what Vladimir was saying when I teased him about being the course of our direction. Actually, it's really amazing from my standpoint of how this roadmap changes from a weekly to even a daily process, because as users come in with their different needs and their different feedbacks, all of a sudden we see a little bit clearer picture of what's going on. So please, to our users, please keep up this great work of giving us good feedback and good ideas to implement, so that the Welkin Suite truly removes those problem areas that you've been having. So does that wrap it up, team?
Looks like yes.
Okay, so thank you guys so much for taking your time and listening to us on behalf of the complete Welkin Suite team. Thanks for your time, and we'll stay online for a couple more minutes just in case some extra questions jump up. But have a good day, good evening, good morning, wherever you're listening to this from, and we look forward to our next webinar.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.